Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be discussing some highlights from the ACIM Brain Regeneration Conference that was just held in Florida, November, just about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Pam Bartha and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. And I'm very happy to share the highlights because this was really big for me to be there. This was the first time that I've been part of that group. And I have to tell you that I felt at home. It was an incredible conference. Why? Because the practitioners there have so much heart and passion to help people recover. And they're on the right track. A lot of the different topics that were discussed were amazing. And I was there for, I was invited to the practitioner side, which was 3 days. It was like going back to university, like at least I would say 7 presentations per day, like 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. So they were heavy days, and I'm not going to dump all of that on you because there was a lot there. But there, like, I always like to share 3 things that would be really helpful for you. And so there, just so you know, for next year, that I don't know if it's held every year in Florida, but it was really nice for me because I live in Canada and I was able to enjoy the beautiful sunshine and the warm temperatures. So I was there a day early, so I got a little bit of sun, a little bit of vitamin D, that's my excuse. And then we went right into it. And I just want to say hi to a few people because I'm seeing hearts and thumbs up. I just want to say hello. Hi, Allison and Margaret and Marlana, beautiful name, Bridget, and hi, Deanna. Oh, hi, Deanna. I haven't talked to you for quite a while. And Robert, Rob Baker, good to see you. And Maureen and Ruth, hello. And there's others. I'm just going to go back to the highlights because it was an incredible honor for me to be there. And I know that there is a group that put it on, but I know Dr. Cowden was a really big part of hosting it. And he was running around making sure, and I think he picked the presenters too. So what I really, as I mentioned, what I really loved about it, it was professional, but it's all geared around integrative health, the best practices to help us recover as quickly as possible. And I have to share with you that we have some really big insights that I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to share with them next year. This was my first year with them. They didn't know me, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be part of this group now because I want to share what we're seeing in the MS community. It's really, really huge. And one little pitfall that I didn't see there is they didn't talk about diet at all, really. They talked about nutritional supplements or even different supplements to fill in certain gaps, but they really didn't talk about the power of the eating plan, which is really huge. So what I would love for you guys to do is to please share this video. If you know of people that are suffering and are wanting to recover, make sure to share this because it gives them a lot of hope. There are many, many beautiful hero doctors out there that are willing to help. And when we come together and collaborate, and I'm not a doctor, but I'm an educator, but when we all come together and collaborate and we share all our little bits of knowledge, then we can really bring change a lot quicker. Thank you so much for all of your love and your interaction, and please make sure to put your questions in the question box below. So I just want to cover a few things. So it was a 2-day event for the public. They were downstairs. This was at the Florida Convention Center, and it's a beautiful hotel, huge mall. It was really fun to kind of walk around there a little bit, but especially to sneak out to the pool. So they had 2 days for the public, and I would really encourage you next year to go. They had presenters there, like, just want to share some of the names. So Dr. Mercola was there, and Erin Elizabeth, his wife, was there. And Dr. Klinghardt was even presenting to the public. Dr. Cowden, Doug Kaufman from Know the Cause, and I was actually on his television show after that. So there's a lot of heavy hitters there that are really, really amazing. I'm just trying to see if there's any others that you might know of. Like Dr. Cowden is really famous, and Dr. Klinghardt, and Anne-Louise Gittleman, who's very, very popular and knowledgeable about parasites. Zach Bush, who created Restore, which helps to heal the gut from the damage of glyphosate. So those were just a few of the amazing speakers, and a lot of them were speaking to both the doctors or the practitioner side and to the public health, the public side. So what I'd like to do right now is just talk about 3 of the presentations, because these are really important for us, those of us that are trying to get well or trying to stay well. So the first one I want to talk about, my all-time favorite, was Doug Kaufman from Know the Cause, and he is the fungus guy. I've known him for years. I've been on his television show a couple of times, and I was really lucky to be able to zip over to Dallas after the ACIM conference and to be on his show again. It'll be airing in January. I'll make sure I'll let you guys know. So if you want to learn about fungus, he's really somebody who has studied this for, I would say, probably 20, 30 years at least. So he's very knowledgeable. What is so amazing is that pretty much all of the presenters on the practitioner side were people that have a PhD, or they're a medical doctor, or, they're a healthcare professional. And Doug is like a researcher and educator like myself. And they invited him to speak. And honestly, it's so crazy that even in the integrative field of practitioners, they really don't understand the significance of fungus in chronic disease. So he shared a lot of research with them, not just about fungus and how it's pervasive in chronic disease, lots of studies, but also mycotoxins and the different mycotoxins that they're seeing. So he talked a lot about cancer and fungus, and Alzheimer's and fungus, and MS and autism. So I just wanted to share a few little highlights of things that he shared. So he shared that there are over 75,000 different types of fungal species. So those would be like, when you're getting right down to like cousins, like, across there, we're talking Latin. So I'm just talking about, at least that they know, 75,000 different types of fungus in the world. And we know that there are at least 300 different types of fungi that can cause disease in humans. And I just wanted to share a few things, like it's starting to come out. The CDC actually just had a fungus awareness week this October 2018, which is awesome. And they're trying to help bring knowledge and understanding about how fungus, it can really mimic different types of diagnosis. And it's really hard for people to get a proper diagnosis if they're dealing with fungal overgrowth. And honestly, most of the time, people do not get a diagnosis when fungus is one of the main culprits of their disease. And in PubMed, there are 138 papers talking about mycotoxin-induced neurotoxicity. So we know that fungus produces these poisons called mycotoxins, and many of them are toxic to our neurons. So this was very relevant for this brain regeneration conference, because we know with MS, I've shared research where we've known for 30 years that fungus is really involved, and this is a neurological disease, multiple sclerosis. And so this is not just for MS, but talking about MS, just wanted to share a couple of other things here. 1942 already. This is in the Manual of Clinical Mycology. So in the Manual of Clinical Mycology, 1942. So this is from Duke University. Fungal infections are of such common occurrence that we have found it necessary to consider fungal diseases in the differential diagnosis of practically every obscure infection. So for many diseases, we don't know what's causing them. And in our experience with the wellness champions, but also in hero doctors such as Dr. Klinghardt and Doug Kaufman, who's not a doctor but educator, but many of us know that fungal infections are always present. And this was known back in the 1940s. And you just wonder, why is it ignored? Why can't we focus on the true cause and help people get better quicker? Well, it's coming finally and slowly. And then cellular and molecular biology in 1997. So these are old studies. Scientists have recovered a heat-stable toxin, so a mycotoxin, in the spinal fluid of people that suffer with multiple sclerosis. This toxin is called gliotoxin. It's present only in active cases of multiple sclerosis. So they took the spinal fluid of people that were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So they had active multiple sclerosis, and they knew gliotoxin was present. This is a mycotoxin. It's a toxin produced by fungi, and it is neurotoxic. It is damaging to nerves. So the problem with these mycotoxins, they're heat stable. You can boil the heck out of them, you can autoclave them, but you can't kill them. So they took the spinal fluid of MS patients that had, they just took the spinal fluid of MS patients and they heated it to destroy any infection. So it would kill bacteria and different types of parasites, etc., but it doesn't kill mycotoxins. And then they exposed whatever was left after they tried to sterilize this spinal fluid. They exposed it to nerve cells in a lab culture. And what happened? The nerve cells died. And we know that the gliotoxin is a toxin produced by Aspergillus, which is not Candida, it is a different type. So this is where, over the next few years, we're going to see that it's not just Candida that's a problem with chronic disease. Very often, it's other types of fungi, including Aspergillus. Constantini, who worked with the World Health Organization way back in 1998, he reported that statin drugs were really helpful, or they did studies, and they found statin drugs were really helpful at decreasing the symptoms of primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I'm not advising you to start on a statin drug. Absolutely not. They're extremely toxic and they'll make you sick. But what it does show, what the interesting thing, and I've shared this in some of my videos in my course in the Live Disease Free Academy, that statin drugs are antifungal. They have a very strong antifungal property. So it helps to explain why taking a statin drug could possibly help MS symptoms. But the statin drugs come with a lot of their own adverse effects. They don't treat the cause of MS, so we don't want to go on them. But we're seeing all these connections as to, why certain drugs work and help, etc. So although in the course, a lot of you are working with me right now, or people that have graduated, yes, parasites are a huge part, and really big worms, we've got to get them out, but we also have to really understand, and Doug understands this from Know the Cause, is that fungus is this silent, insidious thing that grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it loves sugar, and it loves the carbohydrates. And it's not like a bacteria, it's not like something that just sits on the surface of your skin. It actually starts to create, if it has the opportunity to change, like if we're on antibiotics and we lose our natural defense, it changes from this benign form into like a little round cell or seed. Then it starts to grow root structures, and it grows in our tissues, and it produces a ton of mycotoxins, which are really deadly to our nerves. So there is research showing that we have a lot of different fungal overgrowth with MS and chronic disease. But the big thing is also the mycotoxins they produce are deadly, cancer-causing, and burning or frying up our nerves. So we have to understand this. So that's why in the program, in the Live Disease Free Academy, we first of all support the body. And then what we do, first actually we stop feeding the infections and we support the body. Then we move on to looking at our symptoms. And then if we have a lot of parasites, yes, we start to knock them down, because the parasites, the big worms, we have little ones too, and single-celled parasites, but especially the big ones, they create this toxic environment inside of us where their waste, they release bacteria and fungus, and then the fungus likes to grow and thrive on all of that waste. Because remember, fungus is a recycler, so we want to get rid of the big parasites. But then we do want to remember fungus is a really big part. And some of us like to kind of gravitate to things like nystatin and diflucan, but honestly, if we have Aspergillus, then that might be dealt with better by something like Sporanox. And that's why it's really important to work with someone to help you to find out which are the most helpful treatments for you to treat your infections. So his presentation was really neat, and what was so exciting is that at the end, there's a microphone and we can all go up and talk and ask questions. And so can you imagine Doug standing there in front of 300, very smart people, and then starting to be drilled? But he knows his stuff with fungus, and Dr. Klinghardt was one of the first ones to go up there And he had some really great questions for him, and he really gets it. And he said that was one of the best presentations at the whole conference. And that was given by somebody who's not even a doctor or a healthcare practitioner. So just want to, shout out to Doug Kaufman. He's amazing. And he has been diligently trying to educate. He's educated a lot of doctors. He has a lot of doctors that are on board and sharing protocols, etc. So he's the fungus guy. And he has a show, Know the Cause. He's on a lot of different channels, and I will be on the show again January. It's recorded in just a week ago, or last week it was recorded, and it'll be airing in January. So the last thing I want to leave you with Doug's presentation is the mold score questionnaire. And the mold score questionnaire, these are some questions. I have a more simplified one in my presentation, but you guys can take a listen to this. Number 1, do I have a history of infections and antibiotic use? Number 2, have I had an antibiotic-resistant infection? Number 3, do I drink alcohol? How much? Number 4, do I regularly eat grains and sugar and peanuts? So we know that the grains can contain mycotoxins. We know that the grains would provide a lot of carbohydrates or food for the fungal overgrowth, but also he was talking about the mycotoxins. And peanuts are notorious for carrying different types of fungus for sure. And have I lived in a moldy home, or did I have a leaky roof? That's another huge telltale sign. Have I had a history of sinus issues? Fungus loves to live in the sinuses. And in my book, Become a Wellness Champion, I shared a research study from the Mayo Clinic where they scraped the sinuses of at least 200 people that had chronic rhinitis, allergic chronic rhinitis, sinusitis. And when they scraped it, 98% of those people, it was fungal overgrowth in their sinuses. And do I have Crohn's disease? Am I allergic to penicillin? That's another one, because penicillin is from mold also. Do I feel like my immune system is compromised? And do I have a history of lung problems, such as COPD or asthma? So those are just a few things on his fungus score. And what he's shared with the doctors is that if the doctors suspect fungal overgrowth in their patients, it's as simple as changing the diet and adding a few antifungal herbs or antifungal drugs. And in as little as 30 days, they will see if fungus is part of the problem. And we see that all the time with our students, that it definitely is part of the problem. So the next presenter that I wanted to share with you, which I thought was really cool, and I just have to tell you before I share this, is that I have this issue where really well-meaning integrative healthcare providers, they'll say, this is it. This is the cause of all people with MS. It's emotional. They've all had trauma. It's every single one of them. That's what's causing their MS. And I'm like, I had a really sweet integrative practitioner talking to me like that. And I'm like, yeah, but I've had trauma in my life, but I've had a wonderful upbringing, and I have a wonderful husband. I've been married over 30 years. I've got beautiful kids. I haven't had the terrible trauma that some people have had. And yes, absolutely, trauma can really impact our health, and it can really hold us back from recovering. But to do a blanket statement like that drives me nuts, because I really don't believe it's true for all of us. We've got all kinds of people that were really active and athletic and working out, and then these infections slowly took them out. And there's specific reasons for it, and I see it all the time. But there is something that I thought was really exciting. And her name is Annie Hooper. And she has a program, and her website is Retraining the Brain, retrainingthebrain.com. And in her program, what really caught my attention, and I'm just telling you this early because I haven't tried it, and I'm going to take this course myself because I really believe that retraining the brain can be helpful for anyone. And I want to see, I'm going to get a couple of people to try it out for me, because I want to see, I think it'll be really helpful for some of my students. So what they're saying, what she shared, is that if people have had a lot of trauma for a long period of time, so for example, if we're suffering with multiple sclerosis for years, a lot of my students have just gone through horrible, terrible, pain and agony, and losing your dreams and losing your hopes and losing your life and no hope for the future. then she shared, and also other things, like if people have gone through other traumatic experiences, that there's a part of our brain, the limbic system, and the limbic system can change. It's like, so this is like a physiological thing, and it's almost like it gets stuck in this pattern of stress, right, and emotion. And what she does in the program is a very cost-effective program. I think it's like $300. But in the program, she helps us to retrain our brain. And the crazy thing is, you should see the successes of people that, like, one young girl was in a wheelchair. She didn't have MS, but she was like, had blood pressure issues. She had fibromyalgia. Like, she had to be reclined in her wheelchair. Otherwise, her blood pressure would go crazy, and then she'd have all kinds of problems. And she went from that state back to golfing and playing all kinds of sports and just full of life. And it's crazy when you listen to the successes. So this is a part of our brain that is involved with managing stress. And sometimes if we've been under too much stress, it's possible that it's kind of like stuck in a pattern. And so what this program does is it helps us to retrain. Our brain it can make new pathways. So we're making new pathways that can help us to change that. And we know that there's a huge connection between our brain and physiology. So it changes our physiology, and people are having really huge improvements. So is it the entire part of the puzzle? No, but I think it's a really cool piece. And thank you for all the love, because I think you guys get it. Because many of us have been stuck. And, you know, some of us have had, even since childhood, we've had all kinds of trauma happening in our life. We've had more than our fair share. And I'm really excited about that. So if you want to look into it, it's retrainingthebrain.com, Annie Hooper. She is from Canada. She used to live in my hometown in British Columbia, and now she's on the West Coast, which is exciting. So that's something that I was really excited about. And then the last one that I wanted to share with you is, just want to make sure I covered everything. So the last one that I wanted to share with you is Dr. Blanche Gruby. And I think she's living in Germany, but she is a biological dentist. And the things that she shared, it really made me think, okay, I have to really address this. And where I live, I don't have a biological dentist in my area here, so I have to travel several hours to one. And then you want to make sure you find somebody that really knows what they're doing, because I did go to one that was on the West Coast, and he didn't really do what I needed him to do, and he wasn't knowledgeable. So this is why it's really important to find somebody knowledgeable. But a few things that she shared that were really big. Number one, all root canals carry infection, all of them. And she offered thousands of dollars for any dentist in the audience or anyone who could show her a root canal tooth that was extracted that was not infected. So she said that root canals have to stop in disease. And she said, honestly, you have to get rid of the root canals. You really have to, because she said you're wasting thousands of white blood cells every single day, because if you have this dead tooth in your mouth and it has these roots that are dead, the bacteria and microbes like to hide, and small parasites, they like to hide in the roots, and they're pumping out bacteria, they're pumping out toxins. They say it's linked to all cardiovascular disease. And I want to backtrack for a minute, because there's one other thing too, the cavitation. So these are things you're going to hear more, and I've heard about this from Dr. Klinghardt for a couple of years at least already. But whenever we've had a tooth extracted, or maybe our wisdom teeth, or maybe a tooth that was infected, it was extracted, if they don't do it properly, they're supposed to put something inside of it. So they'll take your blood, they'll spin it down. I'm just doing it really simplified, but they'll take your blood, spin it down into like a little blood clot, and they'll shove it in the hole, and then they'll sew it up so that it's not a pocket, so that it will heal over and there's no space. Because if you have a space where you've had your wisdom teeth removed, or you've had a rotten tooth removed, and there's just a pocket there, then infection likes to live in that. So that's what we talk about, cavitation, when you're talking to a biological dentist. So if you find a good biological dentist, they can actually do, it's kind of like a type of muscle testing to find areas where you may have an infection. And even people that have no symptoms with their root canal, their tooth is still infected. She said they've never found, and this goes way back to Dr. Weston Price. He's the one that discovered this, that all the root canal teeth are infected. So that was really, really important. So also, Dr. Hal Huggins, she shared that he looked at the DNA of extracted root canal, the extracted root canal, or the teeth from a root canal, and he discovered 83 different types of anaerobic bacteria species living in that, which is disgusting. So this is a real place where you think about it, you have dead teeth in your mouth, which are harboring all these infections, pumping out poisons into your blood. Your immune system is trying to keep up with it. And then we end up with other infections getting out of control, like the worms and like the fungus, etc. So this can be one of the big reasons why we get sick. I know for myself, probably well-meaning dentists, but I've been butchered in my mouth with, you know, like my husband and I, the small town we lived in when we were really young, there was a brand new dentist, probably had to pay off his student loans, and everyone in town got like 6 fillings in 1 year. It was awful, all amalgam. So we got a mouthful of amalgam in 1 year. And you think, how did I get 5 or 6 cavities in 1 year? And I've never had that since, and it's just awful. So the infections that are associated with root canal teeth, and also the cavitation, the little pockets, it's really linked a lot with cardiovascular disease. What's crazy is that Dr. Blanche Gruby, she actually had leukemia, and part of her recovery was to get rid of the rotten teeth in her mouth. And she's like, just get them out. Like, it's not worth keeping them in. Thanks for all the love, the engagement. I'm just about done here. So I'm gonna go to your questions pretty soon. And then she shared that, as I said, all root canals should cease. All breast cancer patients have cavitation issues and root canal, and or. So they either have root canals that are causing, you know, part of the problem, suppressing your immune system so you're more prone to breast cancer, either the cavitations or the root canals. And she's like, keep your mouth clean, brush 3 times a day. And titanium is toxic. Sealants and fluorides are bad, she said. So she is somebody who educates dentists. She teaches dentists in biological dentistry. And she shared that 90% of all orthodontic treatment is unnecessary. And she shared that if your phosphorus level is below 3.4, that will cause tooth decay. So she also shared that if you're lacking minerals, and a lot of us with infections, and also our food is very deficient in minerals. So if we lack minerals and we have a lot of sugar, that equals tooth decay. And then what was so awesome is Dr. Simon Yu was able to stand up and share for 10 minutes. And he shared that he's not able to clear parasitic infestations in people if they have chronic dental infections. So this is really important. When we're recovering, we want to be working with a biological dentist. How do we find one? There is a biological dentist association, and I'm going to be putting together a list. I'm going to be contacting Dr. Gruby. Maybe she has a list of people. We want somebody, number one, who, if you have amalgam fillings, they have to be removed safely with proper ventilation and a very secure rubber dam, so you're not swallowing the mercury fillings and you're not inhaling the mercury vapors. They want to have ozone treatment, so you don't want to be on antibiotics, but you definitely want to use the ozone. If they're cleaning your teeth, you should be able to use fluoride-free, the polish that they're using. And they should be able to test you, and they know about the meridians. So they know that, and that's what she shared too, that pretty much every disease state is linked with dental infections. And what Dr. Rowan, who did not present, and he was not there, but I just want to share with him, he's got a YouTube channel, and he has probably at least 75 to 100 testimonies of people that will come into his office and they'll say, I need ozone treatment. And he'll say, okay, where's your pain? And they'll say, I have a terrible, terrible hip. So he will use the meridian chart and he'll trace that up to a specific tooth. He will freeze that tooth. Within 30 seconds, they're like, what did you do? I have no more pain in my hip. So he'll say, go to the dentist and get that tooth fixed. You don't have any pain in it, but there's an infection there. And it's freaky. I've listened to many, many, many testimonies on there. So we can often have teeth that are infected and we don't even know it. And a biological dentist is able to find that. So we can have these festering infections in our mouth that are really causing a lot of burden to our immune system. And it makes it difficult for us to recover from chronic disease, or it helps to lead us to chronic disease. All right, so that is it for what I want to share, because I know my brain was spinning after each day. It was like, from 8 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And yet by the time you're done, you're just like, oh my goodness. So you just take notes, and luckily they gave us all the slides so we can go through. So I'll be sharing more and more things, but those were really 3 big ones that I wanted to share with you, because I think they can be really helpful for a lot of the students I work with, and for those of you that haven't met me yet. And if you haven't met me yet, before I go to the questions, I just want to share that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 29 years ago. How did I beat it? I treated infections using a holistic approach. And now I help others recover from MS. It is infection-based, for sure. So we have to treat the infection, but it's more than one infection. And that's why it's hard for them to find the cure, because there are big worms, there are little tiny parasitic worms, there are single-celled parasites like Babesia, Bartonella, the vector-borne. There is fungus, different types of fungus. I know in my students, they've had Candida, but for sure Aspergillus, because one of my students had a brain tumor. And as she was following all the steps in the program, the brain tumor shrunk. But it was a meningioma, so it's a non-malignant brain tumor, which is often associated with Aspergillus. So it's really exciting when we, number 1, stop feeding the infection, number 2, support the body, number 3, look at our symptoms, make a game plan. And we're seeing that by the time we have chronic disease, we're honestly finding that just the herbs alone are not enough. We have to layer therapies on top. We have to use pharmaceuticals mixed with herbs, mixed with oxidative or oxygen therapies. And of course, we have to stop feeding. And I'm really hoping next year that I will be able to present, especially the eating plan, plus all the work. But I did get a chance to share with a lot of the different integrative doctors. They're super excited about what we're doing with all the worms that are being passed. And actually, one of my students that graduated, I sent him to work with Dr. Simon Yu to get the prescriptions. And he did, I think, at least 4 or 6 courses with him. And then he had to work with a more local functional medicine doctor, because Dr. Simon Yu was far away from him. And so she was there, and so Dr. Simon Yu connected me with her. She showed me a picture of him, and he's walking, which is so cool. And he was in a wheelchair, and he's like determined to walk again. So that was awesome. And I just want to share one other thing. We just did our call yesterday, our group call for the Academy. Yeah, isn't that cool? And Carlos is somebody who is in Dr. Perlmutter's book, Brainmaker, I think it's called. And he's the one that had all those fecal transplants, and it wasn't enough because nobody told him to treat the infections, right? To treat, and like I said, this is not an easy thing. This is brand new. So super excited, but I'm not going to wait a whole year, because being part of this group, now I'm a member, and there's collaboration groups. So I'm going to be collaborating, and I got the names of a whole bunch of different doctors. So this functional medicine doctor is so excited with what we're doing. I showed her all the pictures. And it's neat. When you collaborate together with people, then we're going to get to the root, and we're going to help people recover from these infections a lot faster. So good news. I just always love to share some updates and some good news. So just had a call last night, and Sabrina, one of our current students in the Academy, shared, good news. I've had a great day, truly. More energy, better mood, no anxiety, more strength. In my arms, practically no tingling or numbness. And I almost felt like no symptoms, which is wonderful. I feel so happy. I passed that worm last Monday using the, doing an enema, and I think others too. And I felt so good right after that. And a lot of our students are saying that, is that as they're releasing these worms, it's like an instantaneous improvement. It's not like you're cured, but it's always like up-leveling your health. And then she shared, which is so cool, is that Sabrina is doing this with her mother. And her mother has had MS for, let me see how long, a long time, 40 years. She's had MS for 40 years. So this is what Sabrina shared. My mom has been passing many worms. She's improving a lot. She even took the stairs, about 15, because the elevator was out of service in her condo, which was amazing. Reminder, she has had MS for 40 years. And she has many, many symptoms, and she is in a wheelchair. Now, when she talks, she says, when I'll be walking, I'm gonna do this, and I'll be buying this, etc. She is so positive and improving so much. And she's doing the course with Sabrina, and Sabrina is coaching her along, which is so awesome. So this is a mother-daughter team recovering, and that is so exciting. So she said, I had to tell you this because I see her improve this much and get energy back. It's so beautiful, she shared. So this is the journey that we're on, and it's ups and downs, and it's hard because we have to implement, we have to adjust things, and we have to treat these infections. But the people that I attract, the wellness champions, are truly my hero, and many of you are on this call with me right now, and I just love you and I honor you. Before I forget, happy Thanksgiving to you tomorrow for all of our wellness champions in the United States. I hope that you have a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend with all your loved ones, and I'm so honored to support you. And so I just want to share with you that if this is the first time that you found me and you're like, what the heck, people can recover from multiple sclerosis, from other chronic disease. It's not just MS. We have people with all kinds of other conditions too, but I attract a lot of people with multiple sclerosis because I was diagnosed with MS years ago. So yes, you can recover. You can be part of this amazing group. You just have to watch my masterclass training, which is free. And it tells you about these infections. So watch the training and it'll help you to understand. It makes so much sense when you learn this. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the first time that this all makes sense. It is infection based. So on that masterclass training, you'll hear wonderful success stories. You will understand why you're sick, and you'll understand the steps that you need to take. And if you want support from me, then make sure to reach out to me, and you can start right away recovering. And you can do a lot of work before Christmas, and that can be the biggest, best Christmas present you ever had. So I'm just gonna go over to your questions if you have any for me. Hopefully I can find them all. Awesome. Hello, Allie. Uh-oh, you lost me? Well, it's all recorded. So if you lost me with technology, that's bad, but it's recorded so you can listen to the replay. You are so welcome, Margaret. I'm so happy that it's been such a blessing for you. Awesome. You're doing so well. So you've been following the program, and your doctors can't believe it. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And Claudia, hello. They recommend having all the teeth that have, so this is where, just stay tuned, I'll let you know. But what she shared is that, I guess the biggest thing is they test. So they do muscle testing, or they're able to tell which teeth are infected. So unfortunately, the x-rays don't always catch this. So the key is that they have to do some extra testing. And if it's a tooth that has just been filled, and one thing I wanted to remember too is that and I have several crowns, but she said, don't get the ceramic crowns. They are full of aluminum, and then it helps to build up the aluminum in your body. She said, just get she called it plastic crowns. I don't know anything about that. That's new, but that's what she shared. If it's just a normal tooth that's had a filling, and if they test it, if it's a biological dentist tests it and they find that it's still fine, that's fine. But the root canals definitely are a problem because it's a dead tooth. If you've just had a filling, then that tooth is still alive, but it's really the dead teeth. And then avoid the ceramic crowns for sure. And unfortunately, I have a bunch, which is unfortunate. So it's gonna be a very expensive procedure. I'll have to do a little bit at a time. So, and then I think she said, talk to the dentist, because it's some type of bridges. I don't know about implants, if they're safe, or bridges, I'm not sure, but they'll tell you if it's a biological dentist. The zirconium I think there is one type of material that's fine. Titanium is not fine, but they'll know. So just make sure it is a biological dentist. You're very welcome, Margaret. Hello, Marlene and Sherry. See if there's any last questions. What was supposed to be copper trace mineral? Gary, I'm not sure what you mean by that. What was supposed to be copper trace mineral? I don't know that we need to take a lot of copper. Some people have too much copper in them. So I would not be taking a copper mineral unless you're instructed to. That's something that I personally would not take. So, okay, let me see here. Hello, Antoinette and Patty and Nancy. I think that's it. That's it for the questions. All right, I'll go way down to the bottom. All right, so with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Next week, I'm gonna be talking about how you can prepare yourself so you can make it through the holidays without compromising your health. And that is really important because we're not gonna be the group that starts off the new year with these goals of like, I feel terrible, I've got to lose a bunch of weight. It's like we want to start 2019 running, right? So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Remember, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, make sure to listen to my masterclass training. And with that, you're going to understand how you can recover like all these other wellness champions are doing. So take care and bye-bye for now.